Hello, my name is Liam. Welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making chili. Now the four essentials to any chili are the meat, the heat, the sauce, and the beans. For our meat, we're going to be using ground beef, sort of the standard. For our heat, we're going to be using habanero pepper. Now this guy doesn't look like much, but trust me, he's got it where it counts. As for our sauce, I'm going to use canister tomatoes. You can pretty much get it at any grocery store. Italian style is pretty good. And for beans, I generally recommend going with red kidney beans. Yeah, again, a can of that. Pretty cheap, pretty standard, goes well in a chili. So what do you say we get started, huh? First thing we're going to do is dice up a medium onion, mince 3 cloves of garlic, and throw them in this pan with a little bit of oil. Took the liberty of dicing these up when you weren't looking because I didn't want you to see me cry. You want to saute them on medium heat, not too hot, you know. And once they've started to weep a bit, then you're going to add the meat. Probably about 3 minutes. Now, we want to make sure to brown up the meat because it's not going to brown up in the stew at all. So if we don't brown it now, it'll be pink at the end of the game, and that's no fun. Once you've added the meat to the pan, you want to just work it with the spatula and chop it up a bit because it's going to stick together a little bit. Ground beef does that. All ground meat does that. And while you're cooking it, you're going to want to add 1 teaspoon of ground cumin just for a little taco meat flavor, you know? Smell it already. And now that our meat looks pretty much done, we want to add it to the chili pot and work on the heat. Now, as I told you before, the habanero is no joke. This thing doesn't look like much, but it'll bite you. So you want to be very careful when dicing up a habanero, not to touch your eyes or your mouth with your hands until after you've washed them thoroughly. Now that we're adding the habanero to the pot, we just have to worry about the sauce and the beans. For my sauce, as I said earlier, I like to use a can of stewed tomatoes. I also like to add a can of beef stock for a little extra beef flavor. Helps a little bit. And a teaspoon of curry powder also goes a long way. Now the thing about the beans is that you want to make sure to drain all the water off of them before you put it in your chili because you just want the beans, you don't want that water. Now we're going to add the beans. You just mix it all together and set it on the medium heat until it starts boiling, and then you put it on the low simmer and let it reduce for about 30 minutes. That's a very basic chili recipe, and if you went with this, people would like it. But the fun thing about chili is that it's sort of an expression of your personality. So let me show you my chili recipe. I like to use as many types of beans as I can get my hands on. I got some white beans here, some pinto beans, and some black beans. I think the more different types of beans just kind of gives it more of a texture and color difference. It just looks cooler and it tastes a little better too. I like to put a beer in mine. Preferably a Mexican one, you know, for the flavor. And lastly, I like to take 2 ears of corn and just cut the corn right off the cob there and just throw it into there as well. It's better fresh right off the cob, you know, than that frozen crap. Now that we've got all of our ingredients in there for this stage of it, let's just mix it up a little bit and turn the heat on. Now it's just a matter of waiting for it to boil over, at which point we'll turn the heat all the way down to as low as it can possibly go and slap the lid on for about 30 minutes to let it simmer. Now that our chili's starting to boil over, we're going to put it down onto a low simmer. Now a simmer is like about as low as you can get the flame before it shuts off. So you got to keep an eye on it when you do it. Alright, that looks good. We're just going to keep the lid on here for about 30 minutes. Now that we've let it simmer for about a half an hour, we want to turn the heat back up to like a low heat and take the lid off. And let it just start to bubble up again so that it can start to reduce into more of a thicker stew rather than this soupy consistency that we have right now. So just take the lid off and do the same thing as before. Just let it do this for about a half an hour and stir it every 10 minutes. Should be fine. Now that we've let the soup reduce to more of a stew for about a half an hour, 45 minutes, it's time to saute up some more bell peppers and onions and add them to the stew for a little more flavor and some texture and color. I like to use 2 more bell peppers and about a half an onion. Now, the bell peppers, they come in 4 different colors, right? And who wants to choose? So what I do is I cut up 4 of them and I put half of them in a bag, save for later, you know, for an omelet or whatever you're gonna make. Let's keep that in the fridge and use the other half for your chili. So we're just gonna saute this the same way we sauteed the meat earlier. Just put a little oil in the pan. There's still some now, but it's a little more will help. And you know, just throw the vegetables in there and cook them until they're a little soft, but not overdone. For a little flavor, just put some black pepper on there. You know? Maybe just a little bit of crushed red pepper for a little more kick. You don't want to put too much in because the habanero is going to make the chili pretty hot already. Now the peppers and the onions are pretty much done. I'm going to add them to the chili. The reason we add them so late in the game is because if you added them too early, if you notice when you look in your chili right now, you can't really see the onions anymore, and that's what would happen to all the lovely colorful peppers. You wouldn't even see them anymore. You'd still have the flavor and the sauce a little bit, but you wouldn't get the texture or the presentation. I'm just going to mix that in again and just reduce it for another half an hour, 45 minutes. It's really, at this rate, it's really just a matter of how thick you like your chili. Some people like a little more soupy. I prefer it to be pretty thick, you know? Almost like a sloppy chili. So now our chili's pretty much done. I've reduced it an additional 30 minutes, I guess. And all that's left to do is just taste it, see what I think. Yeah. At this point, if it's too hot for you, you can add another jar of tomatoes to it and reduce it some more, and that'll bring the heat down a little bit. Or if you don't think it's hot enough, you can add a little more chili powder and cook it for another 10 minutes or so. But I think it's just about right. There you have it, a bowl of chili. Goes best with a beer, don't you think? Cheers.